In this episode for home buyers, we're going to talk about the one thing, just the one thing you need to know if you're planning on buying a home in 2017.
This is the Inside Real Estate Show, where we give you the insight behind the information so you can make smart home buying, home selling, and real estate investing decisions. And now your host, author, speaker, broker, and investor, Darin Persinger.
Welcome to the Inside Real Estate Show. I am Darin Persinger, and I'm going to call this season 2 because I took a little bit of a hiatus there. This is probably the first show that we've done since November-ish. So we're going to call this season 2. We're going to pick up in season 2 here. This is episode 49, I believe. Actually, episode 48, it looks like. Episode 48. So we're going to start season 2 here at episode 48. And forgive me if I forget some of the transitions between segments of the show as I'm getting back into this mode. So first, let's start with the number of the day.
What's the number? Stop, stop. What's the number? Stop, stop. What is the number? The number of the day.
$225,000. $225,000. That is the average net worth of a homeowner today in 2016. Keeping in mind that the average net worth of a renter is $5,000. So, I believe home ownership is a very emotional decision, and people like to debate the financial side of it, and I'm willing to debate people about whether it makes a smart financial decision or not. I will not do that on a podcast or online because I don't find debating online to be all that productive. But if someone wants to get a cup of coffee or a whiskey or a beer and talk about those things, happy to do that. Would love to do that. But the numbers don't lie. The average net worth of a homeowner is $225,000. Now, just another little interesting tidbit on that number. In 2007, I believe it was, David Bach wrote a book called The Automatic Millionaire. He has a bunch of automatic books. I think it was one of those where he referenced that the average net worth of a homeowner was $175,000. And still the average net worth of a renter was $5,000. So over the last 10 years or so, the average net worth of a homeowner of a renter has stayed stagnant. A homeowner has actually increased, which is interesting when you think about how much home values dipped there for a while. So just something for you to ponder a little bit. With that, let's get into housekeeping, I believe is next. Let's do some housekeeping.
Housekeeping?
Couple things I want to catch you up on housekeeping. If you do not receive our newsletter, this is our physical newsletter, Smart Moves. Now, I know we pump out a ton of content here at Persinger Group. You can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube or iTunes or your Android device, wherever you get your podcasts on there. We have our blog on persingergroup.com. We have snoholife.com of stuff that's happening in the local area. But this is probably our most interesting, useful piece of content, and it's the Smart Moves newsletter. A little 4-page newsletter goes out once a month. If you're not receiving this, if you're in the Snohomish, King County area, and you want to receive this, just request it, Darin@persingergroup.com. Send me an email. This is the really interesting stuff that we send just to our clients and close personal friends, because we don't want the other real estate agents out there knowing what it is that we're talking about. So only if you're a consumer request this newsletter. Let's get into the main topic of the day. So the one thing that you need to know if you are planning on buying a home in 2017, these lists of hundreds of things that you need to know on buying a home. It can be super overwhelming. But with where the market is right now, what's going on with the market, with the economy, there's really only one thing that you need to know, and that is pay attention to interest rates. So first, just a little thing to keep in mind. The actual Fed interest rate, so when you hear the Fed comes out and says, hey, we're going to increase interest rates, that interest rate is not directly connected to the interest rate if you were to get a mortgage, for example. Now, it would be connected if you're thinking about getting a home equity line, and I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole there. So let's forget that I'm talking about that. But just realize that when you hear that the rates over here are doing this, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to 100% impact your mortgage rate. With that in mind, there is some correlation, if not direct causation. And what the Fed has come out and publicly said after they increased rates in December is that they're planning on increasing rates at least 3 times in 2017. How much they do that each time? Probably 0.25%. They want to ease us into it, but you never know when they might come out and bump something up 0.5 point or somewhere in between, something like that. But your interest rate plays a huge role in how much you can afford in your next home. And if they do in fact increase even just 0.25% each time, and they do it 3 times, we're talking about a 0.75% increase. And kind of the rule of thumb that you look at on affordability is that a 1% increase in rate will impact your affordability, how much home you can afford, by 10%. So if rates go up by 1% and you're looking at buying a home that's around $300,000, now you have to look at a home that's only worth around $270,000 because what you can afford is impacted that much by that 1% rate. So you probably just can't save up enough, fast enough, to outrun interest rates increasing. So I highly recommend to you, do not wait to buy. If you've already had it in your head right now that we're going to buy in 2017, but we want to save up, another $5,000. We want to save up another $10,000. You're actually going to you're going to afford less home if you're trying to save up more money because of what they're predicting interest rates to do. Now, just a little side note on interest rates. I don't want to get into the weeds here and start talking about the economy or the real estate market, but the fact of the matter is interest rates have been artificially too low for way too long. And that is impacting how much home values have been increasing and how fast they've been increasing because the Fed and the economists want this housing market to recover, right? It went down so fast. Well, we need to lower interest rates so home affordability is higher. And then buyers came running into the market because money is basically free, which means they can buy more home. And that's increased the value of homes so quickly. So the Fed's trying to balance this out. Again, I don't want to get into the weeds on this, but I have some very strong opinions and thoughts and theories on interest rates and the economy. And I actually would recommend a book if you're interested in this and you don't want to get together for a coffee, beer, or whiskey with me, but you're a little bit interested in economics. The book is called, I have it right here. The book is called The Great Crash of 1929 by John Kenneth Galbraith. It was actually originally published in, I want to say like 54. Originally published in 1954. But it's just a great book about economics, the depression and recessions and how that works. So if you want to geek out on that type of stuff, I recommend that book. And if you want to have a discussion about it, I'm totally open to that. Let's get together for a coffee, beer, or whiskey and do that. So recap, wrapping this up. What's going through my head right now as I do the recap, I know I've signed off on the show somehow. I'm trying to remember exactly what my sign off is. That's what's going through my head. But recapping. The recap that's the only thing you really need to worry about. The economy, the real estate market's the real estate market. It's strong where it's strong. It's still weak where it's still weak. Nothing's going to change a whole lot this year or have a huge impact this year the way that the increase in the interest rates will. That's really the only thing that you have to worry about. And so my big recommendation would be get in as soon as you can possibly get in. Whatever you have to do to get your credit in order, get debt paid off, and get a little bit of a down payment saved up. The sooner you do it, the better it's going to be. And as always, I remind you, home is what you make it. Make it someplace you love.
This is the Inside Real Estate Show, where we give you the insight behind the information so you can make smart home buying, home selling, and real estate investing decisions.